As we talk about the Olympics, there are a lot of Jewish Olympians. We have the Hughes brothers who are playing for Team America in hockey. The goalkeeper for the women's hockey team is Jewish. And there's also some Israel Olympic spirit happening when we were in Israel as well. They have one of the largest delegations that they've ever had, Israel in the Winter Olympics. They have a skeleton, I don't know what they call it, rider, maybe a skeleton rider. They have a figure skater, and they also have a bobsled team. And there's a movie coming out about it. It's called Shul Runnings. Well, they do have a bobsled team, so. Alex Edelman, the comedian's brother, he is the leader of that bobsled team. So this week's Torah portion, Yitro, opens in a surprisingly quiet way. Before the thunder, before Mount Sinai, before Revelation, Moses reunites with his father-in-law, Yitro. And the Torah reads, V'yasaper Moshe l'chotno. Moses tells Yitro everything that has happened. The miracles, the fear, the exhaustion, the trauma of leadership, and the burden of responsibility. And Yitro does something holy and rare. He listens. He doesn't interrupt. He takes it all in. And then Yitro watches Moses lead. He observes the long lines of people waiting for guidance, the weight Moses carries, the way leadership, especially in moments of crisis, can slowly wear a soul thin. Only after listening and watching does Yitro speak, offering perspective Moses cannot see on his own. That dynamic felt deeply familiar to me this week. For 4 days, our temple mission to Israel was not about quick answers or easy slogans. It was about listening, watching, and being present. I was so lucky to travel with 13 of our temple members and Mike Kenny to Israel. I love being in Israel. I feel at home being in Israel. And we had an incredible mission. We sat with Israelis who opened their lives and hearts to us. We stood in places where words failed. We listened to stories that were painful, complicated, and unfinished. And like Yitro, we were not there to fix Israel or even to fully understand it, but to bear witness, to take in the fullness of what is. And what we heard again and again fell into 3 intertwined strands: healing, complexity, and hope. Not as abstract ideas, but as lived, breathing realities. And over the next few moments, I want to share some of those stories with you. Stories that challenged me, unsettled me, and stayed with me. But before that, every single person that we met thanked us for being in Israel. It was my 3rd time in Israel since October 7th. And I was caught off guard by the thanks. People so appreciated our visits because so many people are not visiting now. The old city streets were empty. No tourists, no Christian pilgrims. Just a couple of trips like ours and Federation. I encourage you to go, to talk to Lori Heitner, who's here, or Mike Kenny, who came with us, to hear about their experience, to feel how important it was to be there. And so first, a story about healing. Our group entered the healing space in Rishpon, and instantly something shifted. The noise of Israel seemed to fall away. It had been an intense 48 hours already. We had visited the Nova festival site, a memorial with thousands of burnt cars from October 7th, and kibbutzim that were attacked. We had heard amazing lectures from the Times of Israel's editor-in-chief David Horowitz and military expert Dan Pfefferman. And this healing space was exactly what we needed at that moment. Surrounded by open skies and gentle greenery and thoughtfully designed spaces filled with care and intention, we walked past shaded gathering areas, art studios alive with color, and quiet corners where people could simply sit and breathe. Our group sat in a yurt and took a moment of meditation with the founder of this healing space. The founders of Rishpon understood something deeply Jewish and deeply human, that healing does not happen all at once and does not happen alone. At Rishpon, survivors of October 7th, soldiers returning home, and people carrying invisible wounds are invited not only to speak about their trauma, but to rediscover themselves beyond it through music, movement, creativity, conversation, and community. There we met Emanu-El, a survivor of the Nova Music Festival. Rome escaped the initial gunfire and then hid for more than 9 hours in a nearby agricultural greenhouse and bushes before being rescued. At the healing space, Rome found something he hadn't felt in months: the ability to breathe without fear. In a place where people understood his story without needing every detail. He slowly began to reconnect with parts of himself trauma had pushed into silence. Through community and creativity, he wasn't just surviving, he was remembering what it meant to feel alive. And as I experienced this healing space, I felt both gratitude and heartbreak. Gratitude that such places exist throughout Israel, and heartbreak that they are so desperately needed. Another healing story. One evening on the mission, I had dinner with Jay and Deborah, my wife Ariel's first cousins, people who during my first year of rabbinical school in Jerusalem adopted us into their family. We celebrated Passover together, shared Shabbat dinners, and got to live a part of their daily lives. Last year, their youngest son of 5, Eitan, was called up to reserve duty from the studies as a computer engineer. He was deployed to Lebanon. On November 19th, 2024, Jay received the call that no parent ever wants. At first, he heard Eitan's voice, Abba, and then an army doctor came on the line. Eitan had been severely wounded in an attack by Hezbollah. Jay and Deborah rushed to the hospital, where they learned Eitan would undergo multiple surgeries and spend weeks in the ICU. 4 other soldiers in his units were injured that day, and 1 soldier was killed from that attack. At dinner, Jay told me about his recovery was long and uneven, but with extraordinary medical care, an unbroken circle of community. Someone was by Eitan's bedside every single hour. And a deep faith in God, Eitan is doing remarkably well. His physical wounds have mostly healed. Emotionally, he's finding his footing. And then Jay shared, that Eitan is no longer studying computer science. He is now in medical school. He wants to be a healer. I carried Eitan's story with me the rest of the week. We also experienced stories that refuse to be simple. We sat with Amir, a former IDF commander in Hebron, and now a member of Breaking the Silence. Amir spoke with moral urgency that was impossible to ignore. He described daily life in Hebron, the fear shaping Palestinian existence, and the moral injuries carried by soldiers navigating impossible choices. He shared that since October 7th, Jewish settler violence against Palestinian villages in the West Bank has increased. Homes and olive groves burned, cars destroyed, and horrific violence, and often near total impunity. As he spoke, I felt discomfort rise in me, anger and sadness, a heaviness in my chest. Loving Israel means refusing to look away from the truths that complicate the story. In Caesarea, we had dinner with members of our sister congregation, Tefillat HaAdam, and Rabbi Ayala Samuels. Over dinner, a congregant named Tamar began by saying, "I will not do sugarcoating today." She spoke about young Israelis in her life that was leaving the country, especially in the high-tech world that she knows well. She talked about conversations in her own home, the weighing of her futures. She told us she was not most afraid of the looming Iranian attack, but the erosion of religious freedom in Israel. She does not feel safe walking to synagogue carrying a talit or a kippah for fear of being attacked by fellow Jews. She loves Israel deeply, but feels the current government is stripping away the rights of progressive Judaism. Listening to her, I felt grief not just for what Israel faces from beyond its borders, but from what it risks losing from within. And still, there was hope. On Tu B'Shvat, we visited Kibbutz Erez, a kibbutz 4/10 of the mile from Gaza border. Kibbutz Erez is celebrating the 25th anniversary of a partnership with our Jewish Federation. On October 7th, Kibbutz Erez was among the first communities attacked. Sirens shattered the quiet of Shabbat and Simchat Torah. Gunfire echoed. The kibbutz security team fought to hold the line, and the courage prevented even greater loss of life. And for over a year, residents were displaced from their homes across Israel. When we met with Michal, she told us that before October 7th, about 500 people lived on Kibbutz Erez. Today, half a mile from Gaza, there are more than 550, and there's a waiting list to be a part of Kibbutz Erez. People are returning. People are choosing to build. Roots are being planted again. We planted roots too. We celebrated Tu B'Shvat with preschool children, singing songs and eating dried fruits, and planting a garden we pray will bloom. And many of us noticed that one of the preschool teachers was wearing a hijab, who was planting a tree with us. Even now, even at everything that happened at Kibbutz Erez, it remains open. Community is still being built across lines of faith. Rabbi Ayala Samuels taught at the end of this week's Torah portion, Yitro departs. He went back to his own land. And then, only then, the revelation, the Ten Commandments at Sinai takes place. The sages understood something profound. Before Torah can be given, we must first learn how to ask about one another's well-being and truly be prepared to hear the answer. I was so proud that our synagogue was able to hear those stories that we will continue to hold. We must be able to receive words that challenge us, even when they come from voices from very different from our own. Perhaps this is the deepest preparation for receiving Torah, not the ability to speak, but the courage and openness to listen. This was a mission for us: listening, witnessing, and returning changed. Shabbat Shalom.